few days ago, Genshin announced that you can pick your very own standard banner 5-star absolutely for free once a year, every year, for as long as you play Genshin Impact. In this video, we're going to go over not only which character is worth getting, but which constellations are worth working towards for you. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. First, looking at Qiqi, I think she is the one that is the most obvious skip. The only reason you would ever go for Qiqi is just because you find her cute, you want to use her. It's not that she's useless, you can use her on some meme Farina teams, either as an on-fielder or with Clorand, which is mostly a meme. There's a lot of better healers out there. Even though she does lots of healing, she doesn't do anything else. She doesn't provide much energy, can't battery Eula. Overall, just a bit of a miss of a character, but you can still make her work. She did get buffed with Farina. You can still 36-star with on-field Qiqi with Farina, just build Clam and stuff. Don't get her constellations. They are really bad. They don't add to her kit at all. So that's Qiqi. For Keqing, okay, so she's if you think about this, this is a free character. Her best role is an aggravate DPS, and you can also run her as the sort of hyper bloom driver, where you have this basically the Sino team with Farina, Nahida, Baiju. If you have the makings for an aggravate team, so official Kirara, especially C4 Kirara, but any Kirara, especially with Keqing and Kazuha, or official Yao Yao Kazuha, even Sucrose over Kazuha, Keqing is a pretty good choice, especially now that she's free. She's competing with Yoimiya for aggravate, which Yoimiya's better, but she's not free. Saving all your pulls and getting Yoimiya and getting Keqing over Yoimiya for aggravate, pretty much worth it. Raiden, Keqing arguably does aggravate better than Raiden because she can swap off at any time, and you don't really use Raiden's energy refund for your team. It's not very useful. Lisa, a properly played Lisa is about on par with Keqing because her defense strat is really good, but you might not have C4 Lisa, which is where you really need, where you really want her to really start popping off. Like, that's like actually kind of hard to get. So considering you just need one copy of Keqing, you're looking at Sethos. He needs C6 to beat out Keqing, in my opinion, or at least maybe it's C4. Anyways, you need high constellation. And then, of course, Clorand is just way better, but Clorand is also not free. Now, I would say that upgrade from Keqing to Clorand is worth a 5-star pull if you're trying to build a really good aggravate team, but especially if you like Keqing and you just want a good Kazuha team with AoE with aggravate, I think that's a decent pull. Maybe we'll make a tier list for the value. I don't know. So Qiqi goes in bad. I'm not sure whether to put Keqing in medium or decent. We'll say, looking at the other characters, we'll say medium for now. I'm especially thinking medium because of her constellation. So I don't activate standard constellations anymore, but this one I got before I started my channel. She deals extra AoE electro damage at the start point and terminus of her blink, so she gets a tiny bit more electro application. It's all right. I think this one is still bugged. Let me know in the comments if this was fixed. I believe it's still bugged. I don't think that this actually creates the particle, and even if it does, it's not that useful, especially for aggravate. Talent upgrade, not that useful because aggravate doesn't scale with talents. It's okay, but like not that great. Increasing Keqing's attack by 25% after an electro raid reaction. It's okay. It's some substats, but again, aggravate doesn't scale with attack, so it's all right. Like, it's something. It's an increase, but it's not huge. This one's even worse than the burst. At least the burst level, like that, you get a lot of good AoE damage from the burst. So I'd say C3 is a little bit better. And then C6, 6% electro damage bonus for 8 seconds. Effect triggered by normal attacks, charge attacks, elemental skill are considered independent enemies. Does this stack? Yeah, it stacks. So you can get 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can get a 24% electro damage boost. That's actually pretty good. It's not insane like some of the other standard banner constellations, especially the newer ones in particular, but C6 is pretty decent. It's not like a normal C6. It's like a normal character's, not even a C1 of Fontaine. It's like an Inazuma C1. It's like an Inazuma C1, you know? It's good. It's good, but it's not going to change your life. And you don't need me to if you're a Keqing main, you don't need me to tell you to save for C6. If you're that dedicated, they're going to save for C6 no matter what, then you don't need to watch this video for that. So that's where I think Keqing is. Tighnari. Now, this is a character that has some crackers constellations, but even at C0, Tighnari is a very good DPS. I put him a bit low for a lot of people on my tier list. His power rivals that of all the top DPSs, like his raw power. It rivals Alhaitham and everyone in single target, but you have to use the caveat in single target, and that's also with Yoimiya. Yoimiya is actually quite important for his personal damage to be at that level. Not for his personal damage, for his team damage. But this is a good character. This is a really good character. Definitely better than Keqing. I'll put him here. If you're pulling Constellations, it could even be here. Well, really, what else are we going to put here, right? Look at these. Like, they're standard banner characters. What do you expect? Because even at C0, he's very, very good. His single target performance is very, very good. What holds him back for me is he's very, very single target. And lots of the abysses lately are AoE. Like, very, very few abysses are just single target. But you could argue that his single target performance is so good that he can just power through AoE floors, but it's really hard to do for a lot of the really big waves these days. I put him at the very top of tier 2, and people said it's because I play controller and bow characters are worse on controller. So you know what? I'll give it to you. I'll move him up for my next tier list to tier 1.5, assuming we don't get major meta shifts with regards to Tighnari. Even at C0, Tighnari's a great pickup. He's got premium teams and he's got free-to-play teams. You can also guarantee his best-in-slot weapon from the Chronicled Wish. Hopefully they bring it back if you don't have it yet. And if not, he has an amazing free-to-play option with the Slingshot. So Tighnari, very good. C1. I have C4 Tighnari? Holy crap. I almost have C6. That's crazy. Tighnari's charge attack crit rate increased by 15%. When there are opponents in his skill field, he gains a 20% damage bonus. This effect will last up to 6 seconds. Really good. Like, okay, 50 charge attack crit rate is increased by 15%. It's not his burst, but it's still his charge attack. So still really, really big for his damage. Crit rate 15% is really huge. 20% damage bonus is really good. You can see that this is a much easier stackable. This is like overall better than Keqing C6 because it's more consistent. Really, really good. But yeah, C3 increases his burst. Good. C4, yeah, good but not great. Aggravate and spread, not the best. C4, when his burst is unleashed, all party members gain 60 elemental mastery. If it triggers Dendro reaction, elemental mastery further increased by 60, 120 elemental mastery. The latter will also cause refresh the buff state duration. Really good, because he's always played with a sub DPS, such as Fischl, Yoimiya, Lisa, some sort of electro sub DPS, or Nahida, or whoever. Really, really good constellation as well. This is trash. You don't care about his skill levels at all. And C6 is insane. The Wreath Arrow charging time is decreased by 0.9 seconds, so almost a full second charge decrease, and will produce 1 additional Cluster Broom arrow. This makes him absolutely nutty. This like, let's look up some footage. Let's take a look at this run. This is every day. Go subscribe to them if you like this. So let's see what C6 looks like, because from my understanding, it's just nutty. So we use the burst, lots of damage, and he just absolutely unloads those arrows and just destroys them. So if you've been losing some, you might already have a couple constellations for Tighnari. You might be interested in maxing him out one day. Obviously, if you have no copies of Tighnari, it's going to take you 7 years. And if you never lose a 50-50, it'll take you 7 years to get him to the top. But hey, maybe you decide to wish for him in Chronicled Wish. Maybe you already have a few copies. Maybe you work towards him. For free to play, or for if you already lost a 50-50 to him, free to play or not, I think he's probably a top choice. He's either top, but I think decent is just because of those constellations. It's really crazy. Next, I'm going to go over Mona. Now, I'm going to do a Mona guide very, very soon in Fontaine, probably next month, or not Fontaine, in Natlan, because I think Mona has gotten a decent bit better. I still don't know if I want to put her in medium or decent. I've been using her with 2 teams, Chlorand, so Chlorand, Farina, Nahida, Mona, where you get extra Hyper Blooms and big damage boost and Thrilling Tales boost to Chlorand. Really, really good. And for Arlecchino, I use her in Yelan, Mona, Bennett, and then I open with Yelan, then use Bennett, then use Mona, and Thrilling Tales past Arlecchino. Both of those teams absolutely crack. So good, and I'm definitely going to make a guide showcasing all of it. If you have those 2 characters, she's definitely decent. Otherwise, she's just medium. Otherwise, she's actually kind of trash, so I'm going to put her in medium. C1 increases Vaporize damage by 15%. This might be good with Mualani. We'll have to wait and see. I'm cautiously optimistic that this could be very interesting. Apparently, the freeze one is broken. I don't know if they fixed it. I think they might have, but I'm not sure. Hydro Swirl damage kind of sucks, so it's weird. That's one of the increases, but that's okay. And then Electro Charge damage increase. Hey, it's an increase, but the Vaporize one is the big one because Vaporize scales really well with this type of damage bonus. So if you're getting C1 Mona for Vaporize, I think maybe this is good for my Arlecchino team too. Maybe I'll pick Mona for my free one and try out C1. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'll activate any more cons for my standard banner 5 stars, by the way. I'm still thinking about it. I haven't made any decisions yet. When a normal attack hits, there's a 20% chance to be automatically followed by a charge attack. So this is for DPS Mona. DPS Mona, pretty beans. So I don't recommend that. Sounds pretty bad. Increases burst by 3. Pretty good. She does good damage and her buff scales at those levels. So pretty good. When any other party member attacks an opponent affected by Omen, their crit rates increase by 15%. It's not bad. If you're running a bit low crit rate anyways already on your character, this could be quite good. I wouldn't recommend lowering your crit rate purposely just because Omen doesn't last that long. So you might be gimping your damage later on in the rotation, but potentially pretty good. And then C6, Mona gains a 60% increase the damage of her next charge attack. Yeah, another DPS Mona, and DPS Mona even with C6 I think is pretty beans. So overall, I'm not sure. I don't know. If you have like Arlecchino, Clorand, then it's here. Like decent and medium also sound kind of the same. Good. I don't know. It's really tough. Don't look, just look at the ranking and listen more to what I'm saying. This ranking doesn't really matter. Maybe I should just stop doing the tier list thing and you can just judge for yourself. Next is going to be Dea. Now Dea's super interesting. Dea's gotten a lot better. She supports Clorand, Arlecchino, Novelette, especially if you have C0 Novelette, Linny. Pretty good support these days for the interruption resistance, tenacity of the Millith buff, potentially off-field pyro application a little bit here and there. She can do kind of cope version, but it's not too good. At C0, I'd put her in solid as well. And with Constellations, she becomes much better as a DPS. So C1, HP increased by 20%. She deals bonus damage based on her max HP. This makes her like a usable DPS. I really want this C1 as well. When Dea uses Molten Inferno, the duration of the Fiery Sanctum field will be increased by 6%. If this increases the interruption resistance amount by 6 seconds, then that's massive. My understanding that it doesn't increase the interruption resistance, or if it does, it's by less than a second. So unfortunately, kind of yikes. At least it does a bit more damage, but it doesn't do very much damage to begin with. Talent upgrade for her burst, pretty good for DPS. This should help her DPS. Restores energy to Dea. This is huge. This actually makes Varukasha's Glow her best in slot artifact set over Emblem, because you no longer need the energy from it. So C4, and that gives her more damage. So C4, pretty good. And then C6 increases her crit rate by 10% and increases her crit damage by 15. And crit damage can increase by a maximum of 60% this way. So really, really big. C6 makes her about as good as C1 Hu Tao, or maybe not even C1 Arlecchino, C0.5 Arlecchino, maybe C0 Arlecchino, which is a lot to invest in your Dea. But hey, if you've already lost some 50-50s and you want to build DPS Dea, then working towards those constellations is good. I wish if C2 gave longer interruption resistance, I would put her here at least, but because it doesn't, maybe here. I feel like I'm gonna end up with no one in good. Maybe we just need this. I don't know. Let's see how it plays out first. Next is going to be Diluc. So Diluc has a niche as the very best plunge character because his raw talent scalings, he's just constructed alternatively. He has just higher plunge damage than any other character for just no reason. So for that reason, he becomes the best Shanyan plunge carry, except for, you know, potentially like Zhao or Navia, which sometimes he's better, sometimes he's worse, depending on whatever. I generally prefer Navia the most, Sumi, and then Zhao, and then Diluc. But Diluc's pretty good as well. I'm gonna go with solid. Maybe it's, but the thing is, like, yes, he does the best plunge, but you also could just do, you know, any claymore. Like, you could do Dea as well, and it wouldn't be that much worse. Like, yeah, it is the best plunge multiplier, but is that worth it? Let's look at his constellations. C1, 15% more damage to opponents whose HP is above 50%. I mean, it's not bad. It's a 15% damage increase half the time. It's all right, and it does apply to his plunge. Diluc also does have some really cool melt stuff. That's a too dank for me, but it's quite good if you do it properly. When Diluc takes damage, his attack increased by 10% and his attack speed increased by 5%. This is not that useful for him because you really don't want to be taking damage. Upgrades talent level. If this was a normal attack talent level, it would actually be incredible, but sadly it's his skill. Okay for melt, but not good for plunge. Like, it's good for melt, bad for plunge. Casting Searing Onslaught in rhythm greatly increases damage dealt. Insane. Let me know what that even means in the comments. I don't think it's good. But Searing Onslaught is his skill. The combo deals 40% additional damage. C5 increases his burst level, and C6 after casting Searing Onslaught, the next 2 normal attacks within the next 6 seconds will have their damage and attack speed increased. Unfortunately, attack speed pretty bad for Claymore characters. My understanding is these constellations are kind of mid and not really worth going for, but I think he belongs with these characters. I kind of feel maybe it's like this, like Mona and Day are a bit more useful because of their support potential, but I don't know. And then the very last one is Jean, and Jean is an excellent free character to partner up with Farina. Yeah, you might have Sayu, but Jean stacks the fanfare stacks faster. She works great with Farina, Yelan, and then a driver such as Hu Tao or especially Raiden. That's my personal favorite team. C2 gives you the attack speed. C4 makes her a better Animo support by decreasing the Animo res. C5 talents, C3 talents. C6 reduces incoming damage within the field. This is like okay for Raiden double hydro because you're going to take less damage and be a bit more tanky, but mostly it's not that good. So pretty much her constellations cap out at C2 if you don't use an Animo DPS with her, and C4 if you do. She's still not a ceiling Animo DPS partner even with C4. It's really good, but it's like you already have Farzan. So yeah, she's still good. Like it's still good, don't get me wrong. But I really like her with Raiden. I tend to actually prefer Jean over Shanyun for Raiden double hydro, and I really like Raiden double hydro. Also Cloran double hydro, Hu Tao double hydro. If you don't have Shanyun, you can use Jean, and she's a really good pickup if you have Farina. You know what? I don't know. All of these characters are good for some people. Like they have specific use cases where they can help you out. If you're going for high con Tainari, incredible. If you need a healer for your Farina, incredible. If you need interruption resistance for those certain teams, I don't know about incredible, but pretty solid. And if you go for high con, pretty good. So I'm gonna put her one down. Mona, if you have Arlecchino or Clorand or Mulanni, a fun option, so I'm gonna put her here. And Keqing, I think something like this overall. But all of them except for Chi-Chi really have a decent use if you have a plan in mind for them. And that's the story of Genshin Impact overall these days. So I think the standard banner characters are actually in a better spot than they were before Fontaine. Like before it was kind of just Tainari, and now with Fontaine, like, and maybe Keqing, and now like Jean, Mona, and Diluc are actually quite a bit better, and Dea too. Like quite a bit, all of them are quite a bit better. Even Chi-Chi is quite a bit better than she used to be. So let me know who you're going to go for. Let me know in the comments if you think that I should activate my standard banner constellations or not. Talk soon. Take care. Bye for now.